Why do humans cooperate with non-kin? An evolutionary psychology deep dive in the vast theater of human existence. One phenomenon stands out as both remarkable and perplexing. Walk into any emergency room during a crisis, witness the spontaneous formation of volunteer groups after natural disasters, or observe strangers helping one another in everyday situations, and you encounter something that should not exist according to traditional evolutionary theory. Humans routinely cooperate with complete strangers, invest time and resources in people they will never see again, and sometimes even risk their lives for individuals who share no genetic connection with them whatsoever. This puzzle of non-kin cooperation represents one of the most fascinating questions in evolutionary psychology and behavioral science. The question, why do humans cooperate with non-kin, cuts to the heart of what makes us uniquely human. For most of our evolutionary past, the logic of natural selection suggested that organisms should primarily help those who share their genes: parents, siblings, children, and close relatives. This principle, known as kin selection, explains much of the altruistic behavior we see throughout the animal kingdom. Yet humans have transcended these genetic boundaries in ways that seem to defy evolutionary logic, creating complex societies built on cooperation among strangers. Consider the remarkable response to the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, when people from around the world donated billions of dollars to help victims they had never met and would never encounter. Or think about the everyday heroes who donate blood regularly, volunteer at local charities, or stop to help accident victims on highways. These actions represent a profound departure from the self-interested calculations that drive most evolutionary behavior. They suggest that somewhere in our evolutionary journey, humans developed psychological mechanisms that extend our circle of care far beyond the boundaries of kinship. The implications of understanding non-kin cooperation extend far beyond academic curiosity. In our increasingly interconnected world, the challenges we face: climate change, pandemics, global inequality, technological disruption, all require unprecedented levels of cooperation among people who do not know each other personally. The future of human civilization may well depend on our ability to extend our cooperative instincts to ever larger groups of non-relatives. By understanding the evolutionary roots of this capacity, we can better harness it to address the challenges that lie ahead. The story of human cooperation begins millions of years ago on the African savanna, where our ancestors lived in small bands of closely related individuals. In these early environments, helping behavior was relatively straightforward to explain through kin selection. A mother protecting her child, siblings sharing food, or relatives warning each other of danger all made perfect evolutionary sense because they increased the survival chances of shared genes. But as human societies grew larger and more complex, something unprecedented happened. The circle of cooperation expanded beyond genetic relatives to include neighbors, trading partners, allies, and eventually complete strangers. This expansion represents one of the most significant evolutionary transitions in the history of life on Earth. It enabled the development of agriculture, the rise of cities, the creation of complex institutions, and ultimately the emergence of global civilization. Yet the psychological mechanisms that make this cooperation possible remain largely hidden from our conscious awareness. We help strangers because it feels right, because we believe it is moral, or because we anticipate reciprocal benefits. But the deeper evolutionary forces that shape these motivations operate beneath the surface of conscious thought. To understand why humans cooperate with non-kin, We must embark on a journey that spans evolutionary biology, neuroscience, psychology, anthropology, and economics. We must examine the genetic and cultural forces that shaped our cooperative instincts over millions of years of evolution. We must explore the neural circuits in our brains that generate empathy, trust, and prosocial motivation. We must investigate the social and cultural mechanisms that enable large-scale cooperation in modern societies. And we must consider how these ancient psychological systems respond to the novel challenges of contemporary life. The evidence suggests that human non-kin cooperation emerged through a complex interplay of multiple evolutionary mechanisms. These include reciprocal altruism, where individuals help others with the expectation of future reciprocal assistance. They encompass indirect reciprocity and reputation systems, where people cooperate to build and maintain their standing within social groups. They involve group selection processes, where communities with higher levels of internal cooperation outcompeted less cooperative rivals. They include cultural evolution, where cooperative norms and institutions spread through social learning and cultural transmission. Perhaps most remarkably, these mechanisms appear to have fundamentally rewired human psychology in ways that distinguish us from all other animals. Humans possess uniquely sophisticated abilities to track reputation, enforce social norms, engage in complex reciprocal exchanges, feel empathy for strangers, and participate in large-scale collective action. We have evolved neural systems that generate genuine pleasure from helping others, even when there is no possibility of direct benefit to ourselves. We have developed cognitive abilities that allow us to imagine ourselves in the position of distant others and feel motivated to alleviate their suffering. The neuroscience of cooperation reveals a complex network of brain regions that work together to promote prosocial behavior. The prefrontal cortex evaluates the costs and benefits of cooperative actions and implements decisions to help others. Mirror neuron systems enable us to understand and empathize with the experiences of other people. The reward circuits of the brain generate positive emotions when we engage in helpful behavior. Oxytocin and other neurochemicals enhance trust and social bonding. These systems work together to create psychological experiences that motivate cooperation, even when it involves personal sacrifice. Yet human cooperation is not uniformly distributed across all possible recipients. Research reveals that we are more likely to cooperate with members of our own groups than with outsiders. We show greater empathy and helping behavior toward people who are culturally similar to us, who speak our language, or who share our values. This pattern of parochial altruism, helping insiders while being indifferent or hostile to outsiders, reflects the evolutionary origins of our cooperative psychology in small, competing groups. The cultural dimension of human cooperation adds another layer of complexity to this evolutionary story. Unlike other animals, humans possess powerful capacities for social learning and cultural transmission that allow cooperative norms and institutions to evolve and spread independently of genetic inheritance. Cultural evolution can operate much faster than genetic evolution, enabling human societies to develop new forms of cooperation in response to changing environmental challenges. The emergence of religions, legal systems, markets, and democratic institutions all represent cultural innovations that facilitate cooperation among large numbers of non-relatives. Modern experimental research has revealed many of the psychological mechanisms that underlie human cooperation with non-kin. Studies using economic games show that people are willing to share resources with strangers, even in anonymous one-shot interactions where there is no possibility of reciprocal benefit. Research on charitable giving demonstrates that people donate money to help disaster victims they will never meet. Investigations of volunteering behavior reveal that millions of people regularly donate their time to help others without expectation of material reward. The puzzle deepens when we consider the costs that humans are willing to bear to help non-relatives. People donate organs to strangers, risk their lives to rescue accident victims, and sacrifice their careers to expose injustice. They endure physical discomfort to donate blood, spend their leisure time volunteering for charitable causes, and contribute significant portions of their income to help people they have never met. These behaviors suggest that the human capacity for non-kin cooperation extends far beyond simple reciprocal exchange to encompass genuinely altruistic motivation. Historical examples of extraordinary cooperation provide compelling illustrations of human capacity for helping non-relatives. During World War II, countless individuals risked their lives to shelter Jewish refugees from Nazi persecution, despite having no personal connection to the people they helped. When natural disasters strike, emergency responders from around the world converge on affected areas to provide assistance. The global response to humanitarian crises demonstrates that human compassion can extend across national, ethnic, and cultural boundaries to encompass all of humanity. The evolutionary origins of these remarkable capacities can be traced back millions of years to the environments in which our ancestors evolved. Early human groups faced numerous challenges that could only be overcome through cooperation, hunting large animals, defending against predators, caring for young, and surviving harsh environmental conditions. Groups with higher levels of internal cooperation would have had significant advantages over less cooperative rivals. Over time, natural selection would have favored psychological mechanisms that promoted cooperation within groups while maintaining vigilance toward potential competitors from other groups. The development of language played a crucial role in facilitating human cooperation by enabling the communication of complex information about social relationships, reputations, and group norms. Language allows humans to coordinate activities, negotiate agreements, share knowledge about potential cooperators and defectors, and transmit cultural information across generations. The capacity for symbolic communication enabled the development of shared beliefs, values, and institutions that could bind together large numbers of individuals who had never met each other personally. The emergence of agriculture around 10,000 years ago created new opportunities and challenges for human cooperation. Agricultural societies could support much larger populations than hunter-gatherer bands, but they also required new forms of social organization to coordinate labor, distribute resources, and resolve conflicts. The development of permanent settlements, social hierarchies, and complex institutions created environments in which cooperation needed to extend beyond small kinship groups to encompass thousands or millions of individuals. The role of institutions in facilitating large-scale cooperation cannot be overstated. Legal systems create rules and enforcement mechanisms that make cooperation more attractive and defection more costly. Markets provide frameworks for mutually beneficial exchange among strangers. Religious and ideological systems create shared identities and moral obligations that can transcend narrow self-interest. Democratic institutions provide mechanisms for collective decision-making and conflict resolution. These cultural innovations represent evolutionary adaptations at the group level that, enhance the capacity for cooperation within large-scale societies. The psychology of punishment plays a crucial role in maintaining cooperation within human groups. Unlike most other animals, humans are willing to incur personal costs to punish individuals who violate cooperative norms, even when they are not directly harmed by the violation. This willingness to engage in costly punishment helps to deter defection and maintain high levels of cooperation within groups. Experimental research shows that the threat of punishment can dramatically increase cooperation rates in social dilemmas. Trust represents another fundamental psychological mechanism that enables cooperation among non-relatives. Humans possess sophisticated cognitive abilities for assessing the trustworthiness of other individuals based on their behavior, reputation, and group membership. Trust reduces the psychological costs of cooperation by creating expectations that helpful behavior will be reciprocated or at least not exploited. Societies with higher levels of generalized trust show greater economic prosperity, political stability, and social cohesion. The development of market economies created new forms of cooperation based on mutual self-interest rather than altruistic motivation. Markets enable individuals to benefit by providing goods and services that help others, even when they have no personal relationship with their customers. The invisible hand of market forces channels selfish motivations towards socially beneficial outcomes. However, markets also depend on underlying institutions and social norms that prevent fraud, enforce contracts, and maintain trust among trading partners. The emergence of democratic political systems represents another major innovation in human cooperation. Democracy provides mechanisms for collective decision-making that can aggregate the preferences of large numbers of individuals into binding social choices. Democratic institutions create incentives for political leaders to serve the interests of their constituents, rather than pursuing narrow personal advantage. The development of democratic norms and practices represents a cultural evolution toward more inclusive and cooperative forms of social organization. The modern global economy has created unprecedented opportunities for cooperation among individuals who are separated by vast geographical distances and cultural differences. International trade allows people to benefit from the labor and resources of others they will never meet. Global supply chains connect producers and consumers across continents. International organizations coordinate responses to shared challenges like disease outbreaks, natural disasters, and environmental problems. These developments represent the latest stage in the evolutionary expansion of human cooperation beyond kinship groups. Yet the expansion of cooperation to global scales also creates new challenges and tensions. The psychological mechanisms that evolve to promote cooperation within small groups may not automatically extend to much larger populations. People often show less empathy and helping behavior toward distant others compared to nearby community members. Nationalism, tribalism, and other forms of group loyalty can create barriers to global cooperation. Understanding these psychological limitations is crucial for addressing global challenges that require unprecedented levels of international cooperation. The neuroscience of empathy reveals some of the brain mechanisms that enable humans to care about the welfare of non-relatives. Mirror neuron systems allow us to understand and vicariously experience the emotions and sensations of other people. When we observe someone in pain, similar neural circuits become active in our own brains, creating a direct pathway for empathetic concern. These neural mechanisms provide a biological foundation for moral emotions like compassion, guilt, and righteous anger that motivate helping behavior. The hormone oxytocin has received considerable attention for its role in promoting social bonding and trust. Research shows that oxytocin administration can increase generous behavior toward strangers and enhance cooperation in economic games. However, more recent studies suggest that the relationship between oxytocin and cooperation is more complex than initially thought. Oxytocin appears to enhance cooperation primarily within established social groups, rather than promoting universal altruism toward all others. The prefrontal cortex plays a crucial role in implementing cooperative decisions by weighing the costs and benefits of helping behavior and overriding selfish impulses when necessary. Damage to prefrontal regions can impair the ability to engage in complex social reasoning and moral decision-making. The development of prefrontal control systems during childhood and adolescence parallels the emergence of sophisticated cooperative abilities. These brain systems enable humans to engage in forms of cooperation that require long-term planning, impulse control, and consideration of abstract moral principles. The evolutionary transition from small-scale to large-scale cooperation required fundamental changes in human psychology that distinguish our species from all other animals. While other species show limited forms of cooperation with non-relatives, none approach the scale and complexity of human cooperative behavior. Humans routinely cooperate with thousands or millions of individuals they will never meet personally. We participate in institutions that span continents and generations. We make sacrifices for abstract principles and distant future generations. Cultural group selection represents one of the key mechanisms that may have driven the evolution of large-scale cooperation in humans. Groups with more effective cooperative institutions would have been more successful in competition with rival groups. Over time, this process would have led to the spread of cultural practices and psychological dispositions that facilitate cooperation within large social groups. The rapid spread of agricultural societies, the rise of complex civilizations, and the eventual dominance of cooperative social systems provide evidence for this evolutionary process. The role of prestige and reputation in motivating cooperative behavior reflects the importance of social status in human societies. Individuals who gain reputations for generosity and helpfulness often receive greater respect, social support, and mating opportunities. This creates incentives for cooperative behavior, even when there are no direct reciprocal benefits. The development of complex reputation systems enabled cooperation to extend beyond small groups where everyone knew each other personally to larger societies where reputation could be tracked and communicated through social networks. The emergence of moral and religious systems provided additional cultural scaffolding for large-scale cooperation. Moral beliefs create internal motivations for helping, behavior that operate independently of external rewards or punishments. Religious systems often extend moral obligations to all members of the faith community, creating bonds among individuals who share beliefs but not kinship relationships. The spread of universal religions like Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism created moral communities that transcended ethnic and national boundaries. The development of writing systems and other technologies for storing and transmitting information revolutionized the possibilities for human cooperation. Written laws, contracts, and records enabled more complex and durable cooperative arrangements. The accumulation of knowledge across generations created cultural inheritance systems that paralleled but operated independently of genetic inheritance. These cultural evolutionary processes enabled rapid innovation in cooperative institutions and practices. The Industrial Revolution and the development of modern technology created new forms of cooperation based on complex divisions of labor and specialized expertise. Modern societies depend on the coordinated efforts of millions of specialists who contribute their unique skills to collective enterprises. Few individuals could survive independently in modern environments, making cooperation not just beneficial, but essential for basic survival. This interdependence creates powerful incentives for maintaining cooperative relationships with others. The emergence of mass media and communication technologies has enabled the formation of cooperative relationships among individuals who are separated by vast distances. People can now coordinate activities, share resources, and provide mutual support across continents in real time. Social media platforms facilitate the formation of communities based on shared interests rather than geographical proximity. Online crowdfunding allows individuals to mobilize resources for charitable causes from global networks of supporters. However, modern technology also creates new challenges for human cooperation. The anonymity and distance that characterize many online interactions can reduce the psychological forces that normally promote cooperative behavior. The speed and scale of modern communication can amplify conflicts and misunderstandings. The complexity of modern societies can make it difficult for individuals to understand their connections to and dependencies on others. These challenges require new forms of social innovation to maintain cooperation in technological environments. The psychology of charitable giving provides insights into the mechanisms that motivate people to help strangers they will never meet. Research shows that people are more likely to donate when they can see specific individuals who will benefit from their contributions, rather than abstract statistics about large numbers of people in need. This suggests that human empathy systems evolve to respond to identifiable individuals rather than aggregate welfare measures. Understanding these psychological biases can help design more effective appeals for charitable support. The phenomenon of volunteering demonstrates that millions of people are willing to donate their time and effort to help others without expectation of material reward. Volunteers report that their activities provide psychological benefits, including increased self-esteem, sense of purpose, and social connection. These psychological rewards may represent evolutionary mechanisms that originally encouraged cooperation within small groups, but now extend to larger communities and abstract causes. The study of disaster response reveals remarkable human capacities for spontaneous cooperation in crisis situations. When natural disasters, terrorist attacks, or other emergencies occur, people often set aside their normal routines and self-interested concerns to help others in need. Emergency responders risk their lives to rescue strangers. Ordinary citizens donate blood, volunteer their time, and contribute money to relief efforts. These responses suggest that humans possess psychological systems that are specifically activated by others' distress and suffering. International humanitarian organizations represent some of the most impressive examples of large-scale cooperation among non-relatives. Organizations like the Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders, and the United Nations coordinate the efforts of thousands of volunteers and professionals to provide assistance to people in need around the world. These organizations operate across national, ethnic, and religious boundaries to deliver aid based solely on human need. They represent the extension of cooperative instincts to truly global scales. The economics of cooperation reveals how institutions can be designed to align individual self-interest with collective welfare. Market mechanisms create incentives for people to serve others as a means of advancing their own interests. Legal systems impose costs on those who violate cooperative norms, while protecting those who contribute to collective welfare. Democratic institutions give individuals voice in collective decisions, while creating accountability for leaders. These institutional innovations represent cultural evolution toward more effective forms of large-scale cooperation. The study of small-scale societies provides insights into the evolutionary origins of human cooperative psychology. Hunter-gatherer groups show sophisticated systems for sharing resources, making collective decisions, and resolving conflicts without centralized authority. These societies often maintain high levels of cooperation through social norms, reputation systems, and cultural practices that promote group welfare. The psychological mechanisms that evolved in these environments continue to influence human behavior in modern contexts. The transition from small-scale to large-scale societies required the development of new institutions and practices that could maintain cooperation among larger numbers of individuals. The emergence of chiefdoms, states, and other hierarchical forms of organization created new mechanisms for coordination and conflict resolution. The development of specialized roles and complex divisions of labor increased the benefits of cooperation while creating new forms of interdependence. The role of education in promoting cooperation reflects the importance of cultural transmission in human societies. Educational institutions teach children the knowledge, skills, and values they need to participate effectively in cooperative social arrangements. Schools create environments where children from different backgrounds can interact and develop relationships that transcend kinship boundaries. Higher education creates communities of scholars who cooperate in the pursuit of knowledge, despite having no personal relationships. The development of international law and global governance institutions represents the latest stage in the cultural evolution of human cooperation. International treaties, trade agreements, and multilateral organizations create frameworks for cooperation among nations. International courts and enforcement mechanisms provide ways to resolve conflicts without warfare. Global environmental agreements attempt to coordinate responses to shared challenges that transcend national boundaries. Yet significant barriers continue to limit the extension of human cooperation to truly global scales. Nationalism, racism, religious conflict, and economic inequality create divisions that undermine cooperative relationships. The psychological mechanisms that evolve to promote cooperation within small groups may actively work against cooperation with outsiders. Political systems often reward leaders who appeal to narrow group loyalties rather than universal human values. The future of human cooperation will likely depend on our ability to develop new cultural innovations that can extend our cooperative instincts to global scales while managing the psychological limitations that evolved in smaller scale environments. This may require new forms of education that promote global citizenship and moral concern for all humanity. It may require institutional innovations that better align local interests with global welfare. It may require technological developments that make our interdependence with distant others more visible and immediate. The study of cooperation among non-kin reveals both the remarkable achievements and the continuing limitations of human social evolution. We have created societies of unprecedented scale, complexity, and prosperity through extensions of psychological mechanisms that originally evolved to promote cooperation within small kinship groups. Yet we continue to struggle with conflicts between groups, failures to address global challenges, and inequalities that undermine social cohesion. Understanding the evolutionary roots of our cooperative psychology provides insights that may help us navigate these challenges more effectively. The implications of this research extend far beyond academic understanding to practical questions about how to design institutions, policies, and social movements that can mobilize human cooperative potential. By understanding the psychological mechanisms that motivate helping behavior, we can create more effective charitable organizations, volunteer programs, and social services. By recognizing the importance of reputation and social norms, we can design better systems for promoting corporate responsibility and ethical behavior. By acknowledging the role of group identity in cooperation, we can work to expand group boundaries and promote inclusive identities. The neuroscience of cooperation suggests that helping others activates reward circuits in the human brain, creating genuine pleasure from prosocial behavior. This finding challenges traditional economic assumptions about purely self-interested motivation and suggests that humans have evolved to find cooperation intrinsically rewarding. Understanding these neuromechanisms may help explain why people often report high levels of satisfaction and well-being from volunteer work and charitable activities. The development of artificial intelligence and robotics raises new questions about the future of human cooperation. As machines become capable of performing an increasing range of human activities, the economic basis for many forms of cooperation may change. However, the psychological need for social connection and meaningful relationships with others is likely to persist. The challenge will be to find new ways for people to contribute to each other's welfare and maintain the social bonds that cooperation creates. Climate change represents perhaps the greatest test of human capacity for large-scale cooperation in our species' history. Addressing this global challenge requires unprecedented coordination among nations, industries, and individuals around the world. Success will depend on our ability to extend our cooperative instincts across all the boundaries that have traditionally divided human societies: national, ethnic, religious, and economic. The evolutionary psychology of cooperation provides insights into both the possibilities and the obstacles we face in meeting this challenge. The COVID-19 pandemic provided a recent example of both the potential and the limitations of global cooperation. The rapid development and distribution of vaccines demonstrated remarkable capacity for scientific collaboration across national boundaries. However, inequalities in vaccine access and resistance to public health measures also revealed the continuing influence of group loyalties and the challenges of maintaining cooperation during crises. The rise of social media and online communities has created new opportunities for cooperation among individuals who would never have the chance to meet in person. Crowdfunding platforms enable people to support creative projects and charitable causes. Online volunteer organizations coordinate distributed efforts to address social problems. Digital technologies make it possible to form cooperative relationships based on shared interests and values rather than geographical proximity. However, online environments also present new challenges for maintaining cooperation. The anonymity and physical distance that characterize many digital interactions can reduce the social pressures that normally encourage cooperative behavior. The speed and scale of online communication can amplify misunderstandings and conflicts. The design of digital platforms can either promote or undermine cooperative relationships depending on how they handle issues like privacy, reputation, and accountability. The emergence of cryptocurrency and blockchain technologies represents a potential innovation in large-scale cooperation. These technologies enable trusted transactions among strangers without relying on centralized institutions. They create new possibilities for organizing collective action and resource sharing across global networks. However, they also raise questions about how to maintain the social relationships and shared values that underlie traditional forms of cooperation. The psychology of moral decision-making reveals how people navigate the complex trade-offs involved in cooperative behavior. Research shows that people often rely on intuitive emotional responses rather than careful rational analysis when making decisions about helping others. These emotional systems evolved to promote cooperation in the small-scale social environments where our ancestors lived. Understanding how these systems operate in modern contexts can help explain both moral progress and persistent moral failures. The development of effective altruism as a social movement represents an attempt to extend human cooperative instincts through rational analysis and evidence-based decision-making. Effective altruists seek to maximize the amount of good they can do through charitable giving and career choices. They use research and data to identify the most effective interventions for helping others. This movement represents an interesting synthesis of evolutionary cooperative psychology with modern analytical tools. The study of extreme altruism cases where people make extraordinary sacrifices to help others provides insights into the outer limits of human cooperative capacity. People who donate organs to strangers risk their lives to rescue others or dedicate their entire careers to helping the disadvantaged demonstrate that human cooperation can extend far beyond reciprocal exchange or reputation, building to encompass genuine concern for others' welfare. Historical examples of moral progress, such as the abolition of slavery, the extension of political rights, and the development of international human rights norms, demonstrate that human societies can expand their circles of moral concern over time. These developments suggest that the psychological mechanisms underlying cooperation are not fixed but can be extended through cultural evolution and institutional innovation. Understanding the processes that drive moral progress may help accelerate positive changes in the future. The role of leadership in promoting large-scale cooperation highlights the importance of individuals who can inspire others to transcend narrow self-interest for collective goals. Transformational leaders create shared visions that motivate people to work together for common purposes. They model cooperative behavior and create social norms that encourage others to do the same. The study of leadership psychology reveals how certain individuals can catalyze cooperative behavior in groups and organizations. The relationship between cooperation and conflict reveals the complex dynamics of human social behavior. Groups that are highly cooperative internally may engage in competition or conflict with other groups. This pattern of parochial altruism reflects the evolutionary origins of human cooperative psychology in environments where group competition was common. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for promoting cooperation across group boundaries and preventing conflicts between communities. The emergence of global citizenship as a concept and identity represents an attempt to extend human cooperative psychology beyond traditional group boundaries. Global citizens see themselves as members of a worldwide community with obligations to all humanity rather than just their local or national groups. This identity can motivate cooperation on global challenges and support for international institutions. However, developing genuine feelings of global citizenship remains a psychological challenge given the group-based nature of human cooperative instincts. The study of cooperation in children reveals how these psychological capacities develop over the course of individual lifetimes. Young children show early capacity for empathy, helping behavior, and fairness concerns. However, the ability to cooperate in large groups and with strangers develops gradually through childhood and adolescence. Understanding this developmental process can inform efforts to promote cooperative values through education and socialization. As we look toward the future, the question of why humans cooperate with non-kin becomes increasingly urgent. The challenges facing humanity in the 21st century, climate change, pandemics, technological disruption, inequality, and potential conflicts over resources all require unprecedented levels of cooperation among people who do not know each other personally. Our success in addressing these challenges will depend on our ability to harness and extend the cooperative instincts that evolved over millions of years of human evolution. The research reviewed in this essay suggests that humans possess remarkable psychological capacities for cooperation that distinguish our species from all other animals. These capacities emerged through a complex evolutionary process involving genetic natural selection, cultural evolution, and the coevolution of genes and culture. They enable us to form cooperative relationships with strangers, participate in large-scale institutions, and work together to address shared challenges. However, these same psychological mechanisms also create limitations and biases that can undermine cooperation. We are more cooperative with members of our own groups than with outsiders. We find it easier to empathize with individuals than with large numbers of people. We are more motivated by immediate than distant consequences. We are influenced by reputation and social norms that may not always promote optimal outcomes. Understanding both the potential and the limitations of human cooperative psychology is essential for designing institutions, policies, and social movements that can effectively mobilize our prosocial instincts. This understanding can inform efforts to promote charitable giving, volunteerism, and civic engagement. It can guide the design of organizations and communities that foster cooperation among members. It can help us develop better approaches to global challenges that require coordinated action across cultural and national boundaries. The story of human cooperation is ultimately a story of both remarkable achievement and continuing aspiration. We have created societies of unprecedented scale and complexity through extensions of psychological mechanisms that originally evolved in much smaller social environments. Yet we continue to face challenges that test the limits of our cooperative abilities. The future of human civilization may well depend on our capacity to continue expanding the circle of cooperation while managing the psychological and institutional challenges this expansion creates. The journey from kinship-based cooperation to global coordination represents one of the most significant transitions in the history of life on Earth. It has enabled the emergence of agriculture, cities, nations, and global civilization. It has made possible scientific progress, technological innovation, and cultural achievement on scales that would have been unimaginable to our ancestors. Yet this journey is far from complete, and its ultimate destination remains uncertain. The question of why humans cooperate with non-kin ultimately leads us to deeper questions about the nature of human morality, the possibility of global community, and the future of our species. The answers emerging from evolutionary psychology, neuroscience, and related fields suggest that cooperation is not just a strategic choice, but a fundamental aspect of human nature. We are creatures who find meaning and fulfillment through our relationships with others and our contributions to collective welfare. This understanding offers both hope and responsibility. It suggests that the cooperative impulses that have enabled humanity greatest achievements remain available to address the challenges we face today and in the future. But it also reminds us that these impulses require careful cultivation through institutions, norms, and practices that can channel them toward constructive rather than destructive ends. The story of human cooperation is still being written, and we all have a role in determining how it unfolds. As we stand at a crossroads in human history, facing challenges that transcend all traditional boundaries, the ancient question of why we help strangers becomes more relevant than ever. The evolutionary psychology of cooperation provides insights into both our potential and our limitations as we work to build a more cooperative and sustainable future for all humanity. Understanding where our cooperative instincts come from can help us determine where they might take us next.